What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Uberkooledgarage. On this week's episode, we're going to be hopping into the bug. We're going to start off with the front steering, and then we'll get into a couple little bits with the front suspension and get into a couple more things to get the car ready for paint. Starting to knock out all of the necessary things that would keep me from driving it. So it is getting extremely close. The only thing left before I full-blown take it apart to get it painted, or to paint it, is pretty much the wiring. Everything else is pretty much set. I have a couple things in the inside of the car that I need to finish, but other than that, we are extremely close. So thank you guys for supporting. If you guys haven't supported yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you guys get updated with all of the projects that I got going on. Got some really cool stuff, and we're just now getting into the exciting stuff where this car and possibly the Ghia will be running very soon. So stay tuned for that. But for now, let's go ahead and hop into this episode. Hope you guys enjoy. I finally got my back-ordered parts. So I've been waiting for these for, it's been probably 2.5 months, 3 months, something like that. So these fittings here were the culprit behind the back order. I guess the manufacturer was messing up the threads, or the bungs didn't fit, or something like that. So as you can see, the heim joint screws in there absolutely perfect. These will get rosette welded and then fully welded all the way around. As you can see, the bar is quite large, so it's actually going to get cut down, and then that both sides will get welded in there. I'll weld tabs off of that to the actual steering rack, and then the remainder of this will actually slide into the front sway bar. So this section here will be bolted in. That way, if I ever need to take the sway bar out or something happens, I don't have to pull the radiator, the intercooler, everything to get the sway bar out. So that'll be a bolt in. So I will actually be able to finish my steering, finish the sway bar, and then I can start making the brackets that come off of this that run down to the lower A-arms. So front sway bar, front steering. I do actually need to order some left to right heims for the front. I actually need to order one for the alternator too, because I have the other one of these running to the alternator, and these work perfect for the rear sway bar. So I can get that all set up as well. So let's go ahead and hop into getting this steering situated. Okay, so I went ahead and cut, these are some 1/4-inch plate brackets for the steering. You can see I still have to go pick up some grade 8 hardware. These were the sleeves that I was originally planning on running. So still gotta go pick up hardware, but these are 1/4-inch plates. You can see back here that the rod is in there. fits in there pretty good. I'm probably gonna have to notch this section right here for the front scoops on both sides. My biggest problem is I didn't take into consideration that this moves up and down. So that's just play in the actual steering box itself, which is not going to work. In no way is that going to happen. Anytime I hit a bump or anything like that, that thing's gonna shift up or shift down, and it's gonna make things feel extremely weird in the steering. So I was kind of digging around online and found these. So this is a linear bearing. So you can see it's got bearings all the way around, and it's really cool because these bearings kind of go through in almost like a round pattern. They kind of loop all the way around and back through. So each one of those does the same thing. So this kind of is just like a roller, rolls back and forth, which is really cool. So picked up two of these, came in a 2-pack. So I had to sand down the tube just a tiny bit to get this to slide over. I packed the other one full of grease. I'm probably actually gonna pack some more grease into it, but that will slide over the tube. The biggest issue with that is I gotta mount it somewhere in the center to kind of hold the shaft from going up and down. It'll slide on that linear bearing side to side perfectly fine. So I have made this crazy looking bracket to kind of sandwich that. Whoa, dropping the whole thing. So this bracket sandwiches in between. So this will probably get welded in right behind the fuel cell bracket. So we'll get this welded in, cleaned up. It's got slots in the back, that way I can still get to the steering rack bolts. And then the front's all notched out crazy for the actual steering shaft itself. So we'll go ahead and get this welded in here, get it primered, that way it doesn't rust up. And then when I pull this thing apart to paint the rest of the chassis, then I'll go through and fix, paint chips like this, spray this, and do a couple other little things here and there. But we'll go ahead and get this in, and then after that we'll notch those, and hopefully at that point we should have a good solid steering system. So fingers crossed that all of this works like I kind of envisioned it. So let's go ahead and get to work. All right, so got it all bolted in. Just tech fitment. I went ahead and just threw some tack welds down here on that center bearing. So you can kind of see the center bearing down in there. Turned out pretty good. Got it all notched out. So notched out the mounting spot for the front scoops. So all of that works out pretty darn good. And you can see that everything works the way that it's supposed to. Good turning radius and all that. So, of course I don't have my power steering on. It probably would have helped. But everything works exactly the way that I want it to. So now I can go ahead and unbolt all of this. I'll paint the actual shaft itself. And then finish welding that in. I might add in a gusset or two just to hold that. That way the welds don't break right there. And then the steering shaft will be able to flop up and down. So I might add in a gusset there and there. And then we'll paint it up, get it all put back together. And we should be 100% good on steering. And then we'll move on to the front sway bar. And I have been working on getting a battery tie down. So piece of 1/8 inch plate that runs across this. I have 2 circuit breakers here that'll turn on and turn off. So this will bolt in through the side on both sides, hold down the battery. That way it doesn't go anywhere. Circuit breaker here will control the power distribution block with the buttons and all that. And then this one is for the power steering. So when I build the cover for this, I already have an aluminum cover that goes over. I'm gonna build kind of a bump up over these. And then I might make some kind of trapdoor that comes off just right here. That way I don't have to slide the whole thing off every single time if I need to turn these off, or if they trip and I need to turn them back on. So working on getting the battery side of things all wired up and ready to rock. And then we'll jump back into all the mess of wiring. So everything is really starting to come together. Steering's good, brakes are good. Wiring hopefully will be good here shortly. And we'll get front and rear sway bars in and probably start hopping into bodywork. Got the sleeve done for the sway bar. Went ahead and cut it. I am actually not going to weld this at all. I'll probably flip the bolts around and weld nuts onto the top of this. That way I can just get underneath the car, slide the bolt through, and bolt it up that way without trying to have 2 wrenches up there. So this is a slip joint, the center of it, and then I have a slice, kind of like a pinch point here that pinches down that allows the metal to flex back and forth. Another thing that I did was went ahead and cut the ends off of the sway bar. I also shortened the sway bar just a little bit, so I think I cut out probably 1 inch to get these points here closer in. That way the tire didn't hit. And then I have made these brackets. So these are 3/8 plate. Cut the ends off, cut a slit down the middle. This will get welded, and then there's a rosette weld right here. So these will get welded. I had to cut a small slice in the section here to bend it, so I will weld that up, clean up the weld. And then I got my heim joints. So these are left to right heim joints. So I can twist it up and it'll adjust up or down just by twisting the center there. And then it's got jam nuts on both sides. And then I have to cut out a tab for the bottom. And then once the tab for the bottom's cut out and welded, get all this stuff welded up, I'll probably end up pulling the lower control arm off, grinding down the original sway bar points that I had thought were gonna work in the beginning, but I'll grind those nice and smooth and then probably repaint both of the upper and lower control arms, clear coat them the right way this time, that way they don't chip like these ones did. So I'll get all that stuff set up. We'll go ahead and weld all this together, and then the sway bar's done. So there's only a couple more little tiny things to do on the front end here, and then it can all go back together. Just got the lower A-arm sway bar mounts tacked on there. I'll probably wait to fully weld them out. Once I get the lower control arms out of the car, I'll clean up all the paint. I'll get rid of this and then get it all ready for repaint. I'll probably pull the tops at the same time. You can see that there's some black overspray on there. There's some chipping up there. So definitely gonna go a different route with the paint on the control arms. I'll stay the same color, but just paint it differently. I'll probably get some real good self-etching primer, and then some actual base coat, some actually candy red, and then a good clear coat on top of that. So I'll do all that. So sway bar is in. I got it on both sides there. So those turned out awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and probably clean up the actual sway bar itself, get that primed, and then probably paint that as well. I'm not 100% sure on what color I'm gonna go with the sway bar. I don't know whether I'm gonna go the red again or do the wrinkle black to kind of match the control arms or the steering arms. But sway bar is all in. Everything works out. Went ahead and welded the nuts on the back of that, so that's all good there. So the only thing left to do on the suspension of this car is weld in the mounts for the rear sway bar, and I think that should be it. So suspension's, I would say, 95% done. So suspension's done. Once I go back into the back to weld in the rear sway bar mount, I'll change over the brake line fittings onto the brakes, and then the brakes are 100% done. The suspension will be 100% done. The steering is 100% done. And then it's pretty much wiring, body work, and paint, and then we're looking pretty darn good. So we're getting really close. I'm starting to get really excited. So I also have to pull apart the front steering, paint that real quick, throw that back on. That way I can check that off the list. And yeah, so let's go ahead and move on to the next project. cut out the side panel that I originally had on the car. So I added this one in, which matches the passenger side. So this kind of blocks off quite a bit more space. I still have to make the arch that goes in here and weld that in. Once I weld that in, then I can make that firewall section for here. I'm going to, you can see where my old welds were, where I channeled the car. So I'm gonna cut that whole section out and re-weld in a plate. I did the same thing on the passenger side. So I have an open hole on the passenger side. I have to weld up the bottom hinge on the passenger side and fix some rust stuff down there from way back in the day. But I'm gonna cut this section out, weld in a new panel. I'll cut this section out and weld in a new panel. That one looked really good. And then when I pulled it on the trailer, the first Buggerama caught the trailer and ripped all of that metal back. So I'm gonna cut that out, replace it to match this. It'll come along directly across there. So once I weld all this stuff in, I can fiberglass my panel that covers this, like I did on the passenger side. I also went ahead and made a new dashboard plate there. Still have to weld it in. You can see I have the clips in there to hold that panel in, but remade a new panel for that. The original Volkswagen stuff has a dip right here for the ashtray, but since I don't have an ashtray, we'll go ahead and flat plate, and then after that I can start building the mount to mount the tablet in the dash, and it'll kind of act as a panel right here, and then it'll go all the way across over to this bar here. Probably stop a little bit before it, and I'll be able to mount all of my fuse boxes and everything, the ECU, to that panel that goes in there. But we'll get into that probably the next episode. So we'll just continue working on everything and getting everything sealed up and ready for paint. All right, guys, so that's all I have for you on this one. Got quite a bit done. Just happy the steering is now fixed. I still have to pull it apart, paint it, but as a majority whole, everything is functioning the way that it should, which is exactly what I wanted. So no more bent steering arms or anything like that. I'm pretty sure that this is going to be way more than strong enough to support what the car needs. So we'll continue on this journey. The next video will probably be on Ryan's car. I got a bunch of parts in the mail for that one, and we'll hop back into that, knock out a whole bunch of projects on that car, and then we'll just continue with both cars as much as we can. So until the next one, peace out, guys.